Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome to our weekly or bi-weekly Glory Hunters podcast. I haven't been able to do it because I was in France, but we're starting up again, and we have a lot of news going around, as you might imagine. This is pretty much like championship week. And I'd like to welcome Leach, who's a brand new Glory Hunter. Welcome, Leach. He's a German football expert. Is that what you call yourself?
I would not call myself a football expert, but...
Well, you're in the right place.
Yeah.
An
expert...
An expert
on obscure things.
Yes. You and we're going to be putting those skills to use today, hopefully. And then, of course, my regular partner, Glory Hunter N, or Glory Hunter Nick. And we'll go over the big names of football, and we'll finish it up with some of the personal stuff we want to talk about, like our little smaller league team. So to start it off, it happened again. Nick is happy because it proves his theory that Pep Guardiola is greater than Sir Alex as far as coaches are concerned. He's definitely put one more argument towards Man City lifts the trophy for the fourth time in 4 years. No big surprise here, Nick, right? It's I really don't know what to say. I mean, they're an amazing team. Even losing Gerdewan and kind of other guys stepping in his place and still becoming a dominant team. Do you have anything more to add to this?
Next year it could be different.
Why is that?
Well, we've seen City drop off a bit this year in terms of the standards compared to last year. And, there's a lot of talk of people like Bernardo Silva potentially leaving in the summer. There's been some talk about Haaland, weirdly, potentially leaving as well. So we maybe we see a scenario where someone like a Bernardo Silva leaves and they're not able to replace them with a player of that necessary quality, whilst Arsenal will 1-2 points off. If Arsenal go out by like an Alexander Isak, a striker like that who can score the goals where they were lacking with Jesus this season, there's certainly a scenario where Arsenal push themselves over the edge whilst City maybe regress a tiny bit more.
Well, I really can't speculate on that because I have almost nothing to add because I think they're an amazing team. It's going to be very difficult. It was a lot closer this year than it was last year, of course. And Arsenal, that's going to lead me to my next sort of argument. I don't think Arsenal choked this year. But before I do that, Leach, do you have any comment on the four, the back-to-back champion Manchester City? Manchester is certainly blue.
As an Englishman, I'd say it's pretty boring, innit? But it wasn't boring. It's not like the sheer Bayern Munich dominance we've had for like
12
a decade.
Yeah, 12 years.
And Arsenal is inching closer and closer. But on the flip side of them being linked with a bunch of people leaving, guys like Kimmich and Musiala are linked for transfers for the next season. So if Bernardo Silva leaves and then you bring in like a guy as Musiala as a replacement, it's
pretty good replacement.
He's a pretty bad football player. I've never heard about him. Who's that?
Are you saying that Nick is just being, I don't know, like wishful? That
of course he is. He's a Chelsea fan.
Yeah, I think this is a really complicated way to say Nick is hoping they don't win another one, but Nick is also always saying that.
Don't hope.
You don't hope.
Pep wins it again and again. I hope Pep wins it from now until he has 14 Premier League titles, more than Sir Alex Ferguson. So then there'll be no debate at all.
The one team that I'm seriously, and Nick is going to agree with me about this, unironically, the team that I'm seriously excited for next season is actually Crystal Palace. Because they have been on a tear under their new coach, Oliver Glasner, the guy who made Eintracht Frankfurt Europa League champions.
Yeah.
They went from the brink of the relegation zone under Hodgson until 10th place, which is a crazy recovery. And I think Mateta, their main striker, scored as many goals under Glasner in like 12 or 13, 14 games as he has in like 2.5 seasons prior to Glasner being on the team. So they are looking very, very, very solid. They also gave Man City a run for their money when they played. I mean, it was only like a 2-4 something. I mean, it's they didn't win, but they certainly challenged them to.
You're not saying Palace has
True.
got a threat to the league next year. You're saying Palace is a
No,
threat to take a
but
Champions League spot or something like that
Yeah,
next year.
well,
Okay.
if they continue playing like that, seriously,
Okay.
because the Glasner guy has a run like of putting teams that aren't supposed to be as good in higher places, and there's a good reason why he has been linked to the Bayern job lately. So
I gotcha. Switching subjects, something I want to ask you, Nick. Did Arsenal choke this year, or did they just lose? Because I kind of reject the notion that Arsenal choked again, which they have done plenty of times. Certainly last year they did. I just feel like they got beat this year. Is there any criticism to be given to Arsenal? I mean, the last 2-3 months, I mean, they're winning games by more than 4 goals in most cases. Where did they drop the ball, if they drop the ball, or is this just losing to a better team?
Mostly losing to a better team, but I will say they did lose twice to Aston Villa this season, and in that game against Manchester City, they did not look like they were trying to win at all. That was very much playing for a draw against Manchester City. So if they beat City, they win the league. If they beat Aston Villa once of their 2 games, which they lost against them, they win the title. So,
how much of a threat, Leach, will Arsenal pose in Champions League next year? They really, I mean, it's a whole different format, and we really don't know what to expect from Champions League. But can Champions League make it? Can Arsenal make a run in Champions League next year, in your opinion, Leach?
sure. Well, I mean, I don't see a reason why they couldn't. They have been like 2 points off.
They're English. That's why. that's what I was thinking.
It's very difficult to predict when it comes to the outcome of like these tournaments. I mean, as much as it's usually like the like Bayern, and then you have like Real Madrid and Man City and everybody else up there. I don't think they necessarily choked it this season either. They gave Bayern in the quarterfinals a run for their money. 2-2 at home, and then losing to a header by literally the smallest player on the Bayern squad, Joshua Kimmich. I don't think they've been that far. They weren't far off of going through Bayern. So,
well, they certainly have the ownership and the money to be able to do this. And they're one of the more exciting teams in the league. I just like to see them do better in clutch situations, which traditionally has been a problem throughout the years. Let's get back to German football. And Nick has said this is the year of German football, and I absolutely agree with him. The job done by Xavi is, I mean, it's been talked about, and I guess we can go on about it all. We can go on and on about it, but Rich was named Player of the Year, and I've mentioned before, if he has some kind of incredible run in the Euros this year, you're going to have to make an argument that he's Ballon d'Or material, and that's a big if. That's a huge if, and if he's able to win the Deutsche Pokal, he's just won the Bundesliga championship. They went through their undefeated season. They have a huge game this Wednesday against I can't say the Atalanta, excuse me. I have problems with the Italian names and Latin names and stuff like that. They have a huge game against Atalanta. I guess my question to you, Leach, is the Ballon d'Or thing reasonable under those circumstances? Assume they win this sort of mini treble and he has a huge impact in the Euros, and Germany goes on to win the Euros. And is this year an historic year for German football? And period. I mean, this is with Harry Kane coming over. A lot. I feel like a lot of the spotlight has been taken off of the Prem slightly, to all the crazy stuff that's been going on in Germany this year.
I mean, Xabi's season at Leverkusen is a thing of that 28 wins, 6 draws in 34 games is almost a thing of like, you play like FIFA on amateur mode and you're barely good, and that's the kind of result you're getting. When it comes to the Ballon d'Or spot, if Germany goes deep in the European Championship, Wirtz does good there, and they win the Europa League and the DFB Pokal, you could make a shot. But then on the other hand, the choices for Ballon d'Or winners in the last couple of years haven't always been the most reasonable choices.
No, I
when
agree.
it comes
I
to
think Haaland probably should have
people
won it.
winning it.
Yeah.
When it comes to the big seasons Lewandowski had, and they still picked Ronaldo and Messi. I guess I get it. They're great players on their own fortune, but there were like players in the last decade that in that specific season could have won a Ballon d'Or but didn't because everybody.
And so you're saying if he does do what I'm saying, that he will be passed over just because of the politics, and we've seen them make bad picks in the past.
Potentially, even if he does as good as he did,
even if he has an MVP type run in the Euros. We've already had that discussion about the Ballon d'Or thing with me and you. You've made the comment that this was the year of German football. You want to elaborate a little more because I follow Bundesliga 2 and basically the Bundesliga and MLS probably the most or the closest. This has been a special year. We have a new champion. Bayern's not in it, although I do think we can have that conversation too about Bayern getting screwed last week. We weren't here to talk about it. Why is this the year of German football, in your opinion, Nick? Being half German yourself.
Well, simply, you've obviously got the biggest story in the big leagues is obviously Xabi Alonso unbeaten season with Leverkusen. This is breaking records left, right, and centre. The first team to do it in the Bundesliga. He's on course to do it in the Cup, and he's on course to do it in the Europa League as well, which would be like a phenomenal achievement. But then, aside from that, you've obviously got the story of Borussia Dortmund somehow making a Champions League final despite being mediocre at best in the league.
Yeah.
Well, by their standards, obviously.
Yeah, sure.
And then you've got Stuttgart going from relegation playoff last year to a Champions League spot, finishing higher than Bayern, second in the league. That's like a crazy jump. And then obviously you've got like the story of Heidenheim coming up and being completely fine after rising up the ranks with this coach that's been there for so long.
16 years.
And then now, after all of this happens, we've got the Euros obviously happening in Germany with the German team in a really good place, actually, going into that tournament where they might end up being a serious contender for that.
I want to switch a little bit. I actually kind of thought of something that we didn't put in the thing when I want to get this out of the way. I want to go over a story that's just haunted Bayern real quick. And I only want to glass over this before we get to other topics. It's starting to look like Thomas Tuchel was just asked if he's staying at Bayern because apparently the fans and everybody else had a after almost getting the Champions League final. And I think they got screwed by those Polish referees. I guess we can get into that if you want. But there seems to be, and you always said, Nick, that Thomas Tuchel is an excellent coach. He's first rate. He's first class, world class. There seems to be a kind of a reversal opinion. Hey, Tommy, will you stick around? And Thomas Tuchel has made it official that he is moving on. And it really shows, in my opinion, the damage that has been done through Nagelsmann getting fired by Bayern and Xabi Alonso saying, you know what? I think I like working for Rudi Völler. Leach, do you want to comment on that? I mean, I guess most of the guys have been fired from Bayern. I think that also adds to the mystique of it being the year of German football because there's a lot of drama and you don't really associate Germans with drama too much, but there's a lot of drama over there at FC Hollywood. Do you have any comment on that, Leach?
The worst part that is happening at Bayern this season is that for the first time, the inner workings of the club have been really exposed.
Yes.
Because unlike many other big teams in Europe where you have like maybe one or two people having a say and a go at a public opinion, even stating something, Bayern has, I don't know if you guys know this, they have 6 people at the top.
Yeah.
And all the choices have to be unanimous.
Oh.
So as soon as one guy, and that has been like the meme with De Zerbi, because De Zerbi was brought in as an actual discussion for the thing. And they didn't consider him any further because one of the guys in there said, I don't know him, I don't like him, bye. That's literally how it goes within the Bayern system. As soon as somebody is not well liked, or they don't know him because he's not of international standards yet.
Or he brings a skateboard to work.
Yeah. The crazy example for me is that even... which is and I told this Nick multiple times, what they did with Rangnick, they really did him dirty. Because Rangnick publicly considered signing with Bayern. Like, he publicly said, I could imagine myself being in that job, but I would also like to keep coaching the Austrian national team. I don't know if I would be able to carry the double load of being like a dual coach.
No.
Which is a fair statement because he enjoys his job at Austria. And then the next day, a newspaper in Munich publishes an interview with Uli Hoeneß, who technically has no right to say anything in Bayern, but his opinion matters to the team because apparently his sausages are that good. He goes on to publicly say that at best Rangnick is the third choice of the entire thing.
And then they don't get Rangnick. I don't want to get a little too. You said something before, and I want to concentrate on this. You said something before that's really important. And this is something I think people in Germany know, but not so much because Bayern is considered such an institution. I think you said this is the year that the circus or their inner workings have been exposed, and that's really the subject I want to concentrate on. We've all known here in Germany that it is a circus act, and this team has won despite themselves for the better part of 20 years. And you get a more organized team with a more, I guess, focused vision and a willingness to innovate and take chances, and they're beating Bayern for the first time in their history. And it is starting to look like that, yeah, Bayern is kind of run by a bunch of morons. And I'd like to know, if that was a unanimous decision, as you described, did they unanimously decide to fire Nagelsmann last year? If that's the case, they all should be fired because this has created a huge hole. Am I wrong, Leach?
The biggest issue when it comes to Nagelsmann is the fact that everybody thinks it's not just that they all have an opinion. I think it's fair for 6 people to have a certain opinion about somebody and then have a say in it. The biggest problem is that for some reason all of these six people think it's a good idea to go public with their
opinions as well,
with their personal.
That's the circus. That's the FC Hollywood. Yeah. I mean, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, I think that's why they don't win the championship. The team is absolutely stacked. I think it's I get there's an arrogance I feel from Bayern. This is the Bayern way. This is the way they do it, and really, it's just kind of just words at the end of the day. It's really just a circus act over there, and there's too many Chiefs and not enough Indians. And I didn't know about the 6-member board that have to be anonymous. Are those board members the same board members that fired Nagelsmann and agreed on it?
I don't know. I'm not that deep into it. I just know that somebody leaked the De Zerbi thing.
They should be fired. Every one of them should be fired. And somebody that has that much influence that's not on the board should be ignored. Because I got news for you. Bayern might be Harry Kane might have really brought his curse with him. Nick, let me switch to you. Do you have any comment on this before we move on to our next story?
I just think it's fascinating to see a club like that completely implode. Like, with all these managers turning them down. You've got Tuchel turning them down, Nagelsmann turning them down. Obviously, for a return, you've got Tuchel's just turned them down. Rangnick. There's been talk of Julian Lopetegui chose the West Ham job over his.
I don't want to work with these guys.
This is like just crazy to see. It's such a huge club. This is going to be in the Champions League. They've got the best striker in the world. They've got all of these like fantastic players. They've got great funds. They win the league almost every single year, and yet not a single manager seems to want that job. That is just crazy to me.
Completely insane. Let's go to our next story. It's Harry Kane. This is a disappointing news. Injury might keep him away from the Euro squad 20. They're saying injury in doubt for England. What are you hearing in England? Is he playing or what's going on? Is an England squad without Harry Kane is a wounded squad? Would you agree?
Yes. On the one hand, yeah, he's obviously England's best player. So if we miss him, that would be huge. But that means the Kane curse is not coming to the Euros if he doesn't come. So it'll finally be England's year.
Leach, how much damage is Harry Kane not being in the squad due to their chances?
It's fair to see he's a pretty good striker, right?
Yeah, I'll say.
He's slightly above average. Then again, Harry Kane not being at the Euros might give Nick a smile because it might give Ivan Toney the chance to be the main striker for the tournament.
I don't want to see. I don't want to see Harry Kane not in there. I don't think it'd be a great Euros.
I wouldn't want that either.
No,
He's a pretty good football player.
No,
right?
he's fun to watch, and he's a good guy too. I want to touch on this a little bit. Jurgen Klopp packed his bags, heading to Wiesbaden. I even know the guy from Scotch and Soda. He serves, I forget what beer it was. He told me yesterday. He serves the only beer that Jurgen Klopp drinks, and the only other place you can get it in Wiesbaden is if you go to some like dive bar that nobody would be caught dead in. So Scotch and Soda, I just letting you know, Jurgen, has your beer, whatever it was, because I was too drunk when they told me last night. So they fully that pub the Scottish pub I go to in Wiesbaden, we're fully expecting him to be a patron in the coming days and during the summer. But he's gonna watch a game because the whole street turns into a big Euros or World Cup thing. So we're looking forward to having them. Leach, Klopp's contributions to Liverpool and maybe some insight on why exactly he's leaving.
I mean, I think he mostly said that he was like running out of energy, and he's been running the thing since 2015.
Yeah.
Which, to stay in charge of a team in England since 2015, and then have the cultural influence that he had,
Really?
and I'm saying cultural very loosely, like cultural in the sense that they even like build him like a statue, and then there's like murals everywhere on him through the entire city.
They love the Klopper.
I mean,
they love him.
He has been a huge identification figure.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the next guy they are bringing in, the Arne Slot guy, also isn't a guy who's had a lot of like short-term runs as coach. He also had like extensive runs Feyenoord since 2021. So he's also not a short. I think they are having a good choice with bringing that guy in. Definitely better than Menu's choice as a coach back in the day. I don't know many people who dislike Klopp.
I don't know anybody.
He's just a very well-respected and mainly liked person.
The thing that gets me about Klopp is he's German to the bone, but he doesn't behave very German-like. He's not afraid of confrontation. He's not. He can be boisterous. He can be loud, and I think that really fit in to the culture of the Scouts. Would you agree with me, Nick? I mean, I think personality played a lot of not just the winning. Winning really helps, but I think personality helped make him the legend that he is at Liverpool.
Oh, certainly. He's basically everyone's second father in the city of Liverpool. They absolutely adore that man.
Yeah. It's sad to see him go. This is the first time he spent 8 years at a club at a professional level. He only did 7 in Mainz. He did exactly 7. I do think the voice gets old in the locker room because I got to be honest with you, I think these coaches get a little too much credit sometimes. There's only so much they can do, and they're shouting the same things. And the same guys here for the same, year after year after year. It's not going to have the impact. I wonder if he saw that last year and kind of decided, like, all right, like I've done what I can do here. Let's take a year off and see where things go. And I've heard rumors that I don't know, maybe you can comment on Leitch in the German papers that what Nagelsmann's going to make his run with the national team, and Klopp might mosey right in after that. I don't know if living in Hessen is. Does it matter where you live in Germany to be the national team coach, or do you have to go down to Munich? Do you have to go to Berlin or something like that? How does that normally work?
Go anywhere.
So you don't have to. So he can stay here. So he can stay in Hessen here and not have an issue.
I mean, most of them sometimes of the year go to the DFB Performance Center and like do their coaching thingies, but they've been from all over the place. Like back in the day, Jogi Löw was like from the deadest end of freaking Germany, all the way down from like almost, I was about to say almost Switzerland, but it's 15 kilometers until the border. So
it doesn't matter where you live. So I just wondered if you had to be close to DFB headquarters or something like that.
I mean, I can imagine that time of the year they do spend it there, but it's not like a full-time away from home job.
Okay.
I was about to say it's almost a stay-at-home coaching thing.
In a lot of ways, yeah. I think it's for most guys. That is. Moving on, this is something Leach wanted to bring up. There's a game pretty soon. We'll try to finish up so Leach can watch this game. Bologna versus Juventus. On the surface, these are both teams that are getting Champions League. They're going to get Champions League no matter what. But they will move in. It is a fight for third place. Why did you find this interesting, Leach? I mean, Yeah,
I mean,
it's still getting Champions League either way. Is this like a
the
rivalry I'm not aware of, or a derby?
it's not really a rivalry. The most important stuff would be if Bologna actually wins the thing. I mean, it's the highest club finish of all time for them, anyways. But Bologna winning the game and Bergamo still having 2 games in hand would give Bergamo the chance to also finish above them. And it would be the second worst finish for Juventus ever since their like decade-long title run. I think the worst place they ever finished was 7th. They've been like standard 4th, and now they have the danger of falling down to 5th, which would be like a second-time historical low for them.
Oh yeah, Atalanta's right behind them. But what a hell of a season they're having. We're probably not talking about them enough. Knocking out Liverpool, getting in the Europa League final. Yeah, I guess you're right. Do they have another? Yeah, they got a game coming up against Torino.
And the other aspect is that Thiago Motta, the man who's currently in charge of Bologna, is being heavily linked to the job of Juventus head coach. So essentially, he could crush his future employer if he beats them. And they have done so good, I wouldn't put it past them winning this game like 2 or 3-0.
Well, I tell you what, they haven't won in 5 games. What I'm looking at right now, Bologna's only watched 2 out of the last 5, but there's no defeats on either end. So maybe this game is worth a little something. All right, I doubted you. Okay, so there's still some meaningful football left in Europe.
It's not just that little thing. It's also that Thiago Motta is probably, due to his Brazilian heritage, he's Brazilian by birth, Italian by naturalization. He's essentially almost playing the same football that you remember when I told you about Fluminense and then playing that weird football. Sometimes they are switching between positional play and that kind of play. So it's a very interesting style of football to watch. And if he brings that over successfully to Juventus, he could push them to new heights if he can do that at Bologna.
Okay. I guess we want to get into our. Oh no, I think we have one more thing to talk about that that you brought. Is this, yeah, I think you also brought this up. Leach bringing up interesting things. An absolute incredible moment for the Austrian Bundesliga. Sturm Graz, if I'm saying that correctly, have won the league, ending Red Bull's 10-year dominance of league titles. They will be in the UEFA Champions League next season. How big is this? I mean, obviously going to Champions League is big, but knocking off a 10-year champion is even bigger. I hope we see the end of decade-long championships. By the way, I'm pretty much sick of them. Can you explain to us how big this is, Leach?
It's huge. Sturm Graz is one of those teams that is like a perennial contender for the lower Europa League spots, but they've been grinding very hard for the last 5 years. They've been continuously climbing the ladder of Austrian football up until the place of second best team. But Red Bull Salzburg is just so overfinanced with like funds and everything.
Then what's the problem in New York? What's the problem in New York? How come like we just got? I don't know. I guess that's my personal thing. I don't know because they haven't spent any money until recently and brought in a good player like Forsberg until recently. New York has just squandered since Thierry Henry left. All right, but go ahead. I'm interrupting you.
RB Salzburg is essentially like their, I think their farmers team. You could almost say. I think Nick, right?
Yeah.
They bring in a lot of like, especially Eastern and African talent, and sometimes even like from like Denmark and Norway, from like leagues that are rarely scouted. They bring into Austria to see if they can prove themselves.
And then they go to Salzburg, and then they go to New York to retire. Is that the system?
I mean, to be sold on, and the better players go over to Leipzig.
Yeah.
It's essentially a farmers team that is incredibly overfunded. But even with an overfunded team of like super kids, essentially, you can easily win the Austrian league. And Sturm Graz putting an end to that run, considering that the entire team is essentially. I don't want to say lower class players because that doesn't do it justice, but they are not on the same level of talent, or they don't have the same financial backing that they have, and this is a huge thing, especially for the club finances. It enables them to bring in much better players.
Red Bull Salzburg writing a letter of congratulations to Sturm Graz. Do you have any comment on this, Nick? I don't follow the the Austrian football league, but certainly this is, you know, anytime you knock out a decade-long champion, that's a big deal. You can see they have 1 star above their badge. I wonder what that means. Anything to add to that?
Not really. I think, yeah, it's just fascinating that Sturm Graz have managed to win this off of Salzburg, because it felt like one of those leagues where, even more so than like Bayern's hold over the Bundesliga, it felt like the Austrian Bundesliga was literally never going to see another champion ever again because of how far ahead Salzburg are compared to the rest of the league. Because it's not just the player talent that like Leach brought up, but you've also got a lot of coaching talent seems to come through there as well. And so, yeah, it's just a really cool story that is obviously flown very under the radar because the Austrian League's not very popular, but it's certainly something worth checking out if you're a football fan.
Okay. Oh, let's see.
There's one fun fact. There's a guy from Arsenal on loan to Sturm Graz, so they will at least have 1 league champion in the team next season.
Okay. I thought we go. I thought we go over some goofy stuff here. This looks sort of funny to me. This is a Cologne fan. I guess imagine he has a channel. Jan Nicholas up here. And I don't know. I just like send us stuff like this. It's too funny.
Jan Niklas Beste über die linke Seite. Da läuft er. Jan Niklas Beste. Guter Ball auf Dingshi. Der hat zu viel Platz. Jetzt wird abgefälscht. Und er ist drin. Mann, so eine Scheiße. Dingshi mit dem abgefälscht. Scheißding!
A Cologne absolutely relegated. I love how he's calling it honest, like he's, and then you realize you're a fan. We have to get in touch with this Jan Nicholas guy. He looks like he's up our alley. You know, any comment, Leach?
Cologne dunked themselves this season.
Yeah, they really did.
They just dunked themselves by signing. Was it the Slovakian kid? They're not allowed to do any transfers because they broke UEFA transfer law by signing like a young kid from like.
That's why they couldn't get Hollebach. That's why they couldn't get Hollebach or Wiesbaden because they were in trouble for transfer stuff. I guess they did it themselves.
They literally shanked themselves. It's funny to the extreme.
It is. It is really funny. Other funny stuff. Raquinho decided to show up in Philadelphia. Here he is.
Oh, he's going in.
Raccoon now evading even more.
On the left wing.
The individual's trying to
going in for the
capture him. There's 3 or 4 of people around him, and still the Raccoon goes on. This is mob.
This is American.
His Raccoon just jumped on the field. They eventually captured him with a garbage can. Look what I pulled from FIFA 24. There you go. And wanted by Chelsea, Man United. Lucky you. I love the fact that they put the MLS and the Philadelphia logo in there. I think that's fantastic.
What a guy.
All right, now's the part of the show we talk about like the personal stuff we want to get into. I'm going to talk about and probably make a video about. I was at the final. I got to watch the champions St. Pauli get crowned for the 2nd Bundesliga. Congratulations to them! And despite their reputation, they're quite great fans. I really enjoyed having a couple beers with them afterwards. And congratulations. The one scenario I didn't point out in my rant video is yes, Wiesbaden can lose, but so does a Rostock. Rostock coming within inches of a goalie actually putting it in, from about 30 meters out. And yes, as well as Wiesbaden played, and I think they did play well. I think they played well in all these losses, I'll be perfectly honest with you. They get in promotion relegation by the seat of their pants against Regensburg. They're the team in the 3rd league that wants to come up. It's weird watching a champion get relegated, but it was just like, with Wiesbaden, we're such a tiny club. Stay in the league by any means necessary. That's one more league in the year in the Deutsche Pokal. If we can pull it out, that'll be 3 years in a row. We were in the Pokal, and from what I understand, that's what they really want to be in because that's where the real money is, and that's what we need to be able to get players and stuff like that. I guess I'll ask you, Leach, because you're probably more familiar with German lower leagues. I was satisfied with the way Wiesbaden played against a team like St. Pauli. Am I just being a fan there? Am I looking for the best case scenario? Because I do realize that they backed into this. They backed into promotion last year. It looks like they might back their way out of this year. And what are their chances against Regensburg?
I mean, realistically, Nick can also chime in because we both watched it together.
You watch a game?
live.
Okay, good. I'll hear you both. Yeah, sure.
They played out of their mind at parts of the game.
I agree.
Like they weren't playing like the team that's like sitting in third to last place in the league. They didn't have much possession, and they shanked some chances, and some were like hilariously bad, like that one shot Vukotic took in the second minute.
Yeah, he just took it on himself. That was hard. I was glad. I didn't mind the run. I just hated the finish. You know, I looked at my son. I was like, "What was that?" You know.
I was like laughing at him for
Yeah,
that
it was
because
pretty
it was
funny.
incredibly stupid.
If you put it on net, I'd have been satisfied because nobody was daring to stop him. Nobody went in for a tackle, and he let one loose, and boy, did he let one loose.
You want to charge in when there's like a 6'5" guy charging towards you.
Now we know why he's not a striker. But go ahead.
They played out of their minds. The 18 guy Patine, he could have scored 1 or 2 goals.
Sure.
But in total, I think what quote unquote crippled their play the most was the halftime substitution of Hoppel, because he played a very good first half.
I think he has injury issues. He had a surgery last year. But we only won last year when he was in the lineup. He's a tremendous player, Gopal, and I think his knees go after a while, and they got to give him a rest. So I don't know. And then we also lost the coach. He kicked the water bottle, and he got an instant red carded. What's that about? Was that violent conduct? What did he get kicked out for?
He also screamed at the fourth referee. Apparently, there was some profanities thrown at.
Oh, that's what my wife said. She heard because we weren't that far. We could hear them, and I was yelling and screaming. And my wife's like, "Calm down." He acted like an asshole to the third referee. She must have heard him. Her German's a little better than mine.
but I think this team has a serious chance of staying in the league.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because if they give a decent challenge to one of the dominant teams of the season, they certainly have a more than fair shout to beat Regensburg. I mean,
Regensburg was. I'm a little afraid. They were really good most of the season. They kind of fell off at the end there. They've won their last couple games, from what I understand. They kind of bottled it at the end, but that's a very young and a completely new team. They pulled a Braintree and fired everybody last year, and they've been very, very effective. And staring down the barrel of promotion. I hope you're right, but I don't feel that good. Nick, how should I be feeling right now? Should I be great? Because it was the only loss that I ever felt good about in my life. Because I did think they played well, and we're doing the only job this year was to stay in the league, and we're only 2 games away from doing it. Have tickets, by the way. Where's your opinion? You watched the game?
Yeah, I think I'd be kind of confident going into that relegation playoff, especially after that performance. I thought you certainly gave St. Pauli a good game. You know, this is the league champions that you were playing up against. Yeah. Patine could have easily scored a header from a corner in the first half where he got really close, and that it completely changes the game. And so, and obviously you've got a lot of players there that you won in that league. You came up from that league just a year ago, so clearly the experience is still going to be there in a lot of those players that were there last season. I'd be kind of confident going into it. Not overconfident. I wouldn't be too cocky, but I think you're certainly in a better position to win this than Regensburg. I think so.
I also have to say that, I'm not apologizing, but I expected. I'm not super happy with Fenchner and Heuser's performance this year, even though he's been linked to Heidenheim, which is another that makes me want to jump through a window. If he goes to Heidenheim. Jesus. If he goes to Heidenheim, I'm going to try out for the damn team next year. Jesus. But I gotta admit, you mentioned it in the chat, and I saw it out there, and I said it to my son during the game. I go, those two are having a great game. And they were a big reason why they're. I thought Patine had a little bit of an off game. I can't complain. He's a high scoring goal on the league, not just because of the missed chances. I think, and with anything with the striker, some of it's right place, right time. Sometimes you shank balls when you play it right and you put yourself positioning. I'm not going to get too much on him because he normally finishes, and but but the rest of the team really, and I think in all these losses, Holstein Kiel is no slouch either, and we came this close to taking their title away from them. We came within a goal of, because Holstein Kiel won, if I'm not mistaken. So we actually came real close. Real funny. St. Pauli fans and Wiesbaden fans shaking hands. They're real cool. Reputation, as far as I'm concerned, maybe because they won. I wouldn't want to be there when they're getting relegated, but they were really great. Also, a lot of Australians. You had Irvine, and there's a few Australians on St. Pauli. And of course, we got Iredale, so that was kind of cool. You saw them kind of getting together and shaking hands. So, isn't over, but we go on to the next subject. You wanted to bring this up. Speaking of Heidenheim, and I just learned this. You want to explain this? Heidenheim, who finished just outside of Europe, as you can see right here, has a shot to still get Europe if what happens, Leach?
Oh, it's a very specific scenario. If so, usually the winner of the DFB Pokal gets an instant qualification spot into the Europa League.
Okay.
But due to I'm going to say like 99.5% chance that Leverkusen is actually going to win the thing.
Yeah, I would say so.
They are pre-qualified for the Champions League, and in those instances, the Europa League qualification spot that would be given to the winners of the Pokal shifts over into the league table, which means Frankfurt is already safe, but currently Hoffenheim is sitting in 7th in the Conference League qualification spot.
Correct.
And
so they'll get that Europe spot, and the Conference League will drop down to 8, correct?
Yes, which would make Heidenheim one of the few teams that instantly after promotion they go all the way to Europe. I mean, it's
amazing.
It's the first time in the entire year on the last day of play that they got to the spot of 8th. They weren't ever 8th before the last 33 games. They were sitting at like 9th and 10th. And Bremen shanking it on the last day of play put Heidenheim into the spot on a negative goal aggregate going to Europe. That's a thing. It could be a thing. I mean, we still have the off chance that Kaiserslautern somehow makes.
If Kaiserslautern does that, that is just a bullet, a dagger into a. I mean, I am not like. First of all, they're crosstown rivals. Well, not crosstown, but cross-state rivals for us in Wiesbaden and Mainz. That's their number one derby is K-Town. If for some reason they were able to pull a victory, or maybe Ritz can't get that 90th minute assist like he's got like the last 9 times, or that 90th minute goal. I can't see it happening, but what a shock to the system. And I think that's this Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. If for some reason Kaiserslautern could beat them, who really almost got relegated to third league. What a year for the Pokal with the Saarbrücken story. We did some of Saarbrücken's games, so it was real fun. The Germans always tell me Saarbrücken should be captured by France. Don't seem to be well liked, the Saarbrückeners, and they were kind of rowdy when they came here to Wiesbaden last year. Any comment on this, Nick? Is anything you want to add before we go to your thing?
Not really. I just think it's a phenomenal story that you've got Heidenheim who have gone from second division to European football in 1 year. It's just crazy, especially with the coach that's been there for so long. You know, it's a real feel-good story, I suppose, to see a guy who's been working at a club for so long and he's managed to build them all the way up to get to European football. It's
amazing.
It's really inspirational. If anything.
And it kind of adds to your thing of this is kind of the year of German football and just German stories in general. And hopefully that'll attract more people to the Bundesliga and get more competitive with the Prem. All right, this is your story. You want to elaborate? FC United of Manchester, Grazi Mealy to Leo Antonati. What is this about? And the clubs who took part, 2021, they dare. What is this? What am I looking at?
So this is something which I think is really interesting that people might be interested in. It's something called the Phoenix Trophy. And so, as you can see there, FC United of Manchester won the Phoenix Trophy this year. And it's basically a Champions League for semi-professional clubs.
Oh.
And so, like FC United Manchester, they play at a lower level than Braintree. One of the clubs in the semi-finals of this, Enfield Town, just got promoted to Braintree's league. Like they're going to be playing in the league that Braintree just got promoted from next season. FC United Manchester played Prague Raptors, obviously a Czech team in the final.
Oh wow!
And yeah, it's basically it's a small tournament that is just semi-professional clubs playing each other across Europe.
There's a two chubby wubbies in that picture. I can see that it's semi-professional.
Yeah, these are professionals, but I just thought that's really cool.
That
and
is cool. Yeah.
all of the games are streamed free on their YouTube channel, the Phoenix Trophy, so everyone can free to watch it. Obviously, this year's one ended. It was like just over a week ago, the final. I was going to talk about it last week, but obviously we had to miss a week.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's something to look out for next season, I think.
Sure.
So I think
if you could send me
really interesting to
if
check
you can
out.
send me the link, I'll put it in the description box below. And I want to keep an eye on it next year because like I said, on Glory Hunters, we pretty much we hunt the glory at every level. We did Wiesbaden and we did Braintree. Braintree we had probably the biggest turnout for any of our. We're kind of amateurs over here. We had a big turnout for the Braintree watch along. And gentlemen and Leach, welcome to the Glory Hunters. You're officially a Glory Hunter now, Leach. How does that make you feel?
Yay!
Yeah, good German response. Yeah. Yay!
I want to satisfy your needs. As an American having expectations towards Germans, I had to fulfill that like very enthusiastic yahoo.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Hey, listen, if you got this far for whatever reason, I hope you enjoy our content. We got rant videos, we got all sorts of stuff going on over here, and just chilling out in the Discord and hanging out. I stream in here games from all over the world. We'll be doing it all summer, from the Euros to Leagues Cup to Copa America, and it's just a cool place to hang out, and that's really where the whole kind of club kind of revolves in the Discord. So please join the Discord, become a junior Glory Hunter, and just hang out, and don't be afraid to turn off your mic. We have kind of a no there's banter, you get your balls busted, but there's a no what do you call it, what do you call that when you like a gatekeeping? We have no gatekeeping policy. So if you don't know anything about football and you want to get into it, we're the guys, because you can ask a question and don't be afraid to ask, and people are going to explain it to you. It's that simple. We're going to tell you what's going on. We got a few guys that have actually tried that, and I think they'll attest to that. We also want to thank our biggest poster in the chat room, Hentai for Life, a guy, an American who unironically says footy. He should be beaten to death for that on every time he says it. He should be beaten to death and then use those things that jump you when your heart stops so he can be beaten again every time he uses the word footy. And he has the balls to stick his nose up at MLS and he says footy. So there you go. How much you want to bet the fight and win guy over in Seattle says footy? You want to put any bets on that, Nick?
Definitely. 100%.
100%.
Footy kind of guy.
Yeah, that's it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Leach. Welcome to Glory Hunters. You can be a part of it too. We're looking for content creators. We're looking for everybody to kind of get this community project going. It's mine. I run it. Don't give me any bullshit. But only really slight quality assurance, and we can get your stuff, your rant stuff, or whatever you want to talk about. So thank you very much.
The slightest of quality insurance.
You really, yeah. It's like, oh wow, he didn't. It's on a black screen and it's comprehensible. So be a Glory Hunter. Join us. We'll see you soon. Bye bye.